a bad day out there. And many of you would already know, the youth of Ireland may not know this, but since Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael married back in 1933, they have attempted to govern Ireland along with top-ranked civil servants, top-ranked Gardaí and political advisors ever since. So that's 92 years in existence. Partly to blame for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael existing that long, since 1933 to 2025, is the citizens of Ireland, because your uncounted votes was never a clean election. For the simple reason is, guys, any once uncounted votes exits polling stations. They also exit public sight. Therefore, the election becomes non-democratic once your uncounted votes exit polling stations overnight. That's all I will say on that, because I'm always on about elections, because it's been a pet peeve of mine since the age of 15, which is not today or yesterday. FG hired former Fianna Fáil spin doctors to coach Heather Humphreys on the lead up to the Áras debates. When they squared off in the first presidential election debate, the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael candidates had been taught tricks by the other side of the Civil War political divide. Fine Gael hired former Fianna Fáil spin doctors to coach Heather Humphreys in the presidential election campaign. The training mirrored the role played by former Fine Gael minister Ivan Yates in the Jim Gavin campaign for Fine Gael. But remember, Ivan Yates was once heavily involved with Fine Gael and probably still is. A communications firm founded by an advisor to Bertie Ahern when he was Taoiseach and an ex-Fianna Fáil chief prepared Miss Humphreys for debates and interviews. The hiring of a firm headed by former Fianna Fáil hacks for a Fine Gael campaign raised eyebrows within the party. The former Taoiseach Special Advisor Jackie Gallagher and former Fianna Fáil General Secretary Martin Mackin were two of the founders of Q4 PR, which describes itself as a leading Dublin public relations agency. The involvement of the firm was a surprise, as a rival PR company normally carries out Fine Gael's media coaching. The communications clinic, run by Terry Prone and Anthony Savage, is the party's usual trainers of choice. Aside from Q4's sessions, Fine Gael said its main media advisory work for Miss Humphreys was carried out by ex-News Talk presenter Chris Donohoe. The long-time former press advisor to ex-minister Simon Coveney, and then briefly for party leader Simon Harris. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. This is in reference to Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, never been separate parties, from once to married from 1933 to 2025, and approaching the past presidential election. You had Fianna Fáil coaches teaching Fine Gael candidates and vice versa. Aside from Q4's sessions, Fine Gael said its main media advisory work for Ms Humphreys was carried out by ex-News Talk presenter Chris Donoghue, the long-time former press advisor to ex-Minister Simon Coveney and then briefly for party leader Simon Harris. Former RTE broadcaster Caroline Murphy of Avondale Media Services also did work for Ms Humphreys. Former RTE broadcaster Caroline Murphy of Avondale Media Services also did work. Q4 did 2 coaching sessions with Ms Humphreys in the early part of the campaign, around the time of her launch in Monaghan and before her first debate with Media Radio, with Virgin Media. Mr Gallagher said he himself did not carry out the media training, which was done by another staff member. I had tea with her and sat in, but I am not the trainer, he said. But he's not going to let down himself, guys, is he? Mr Gallagher said Q4 has staff from all sorts of political backgrounds and interests. Their house is a broad church where there are people involved with every political party who worked in them or whatever. They have relationships with lots of people informally. He'd be more into Fianna Fáil than anything, but he always liked Heather because she's always been very decent. He added. But your folks, we all know what goes on behind the scenes unless we are clowns. That's what they think we are. The people of this country are clowns, but they're mistakenly very, very wrong. Unlike Mr Yates, Mr Gallagher did not seek to invoke any client confidentiality clause to prevent him discussing his firm's role in Ms Humphreys' campaign. Just like Mr Yates, Mr Gallagher was once caught up in a media conflict of interest now, but that was 25 years ago. Mr Gallagher does not do any media commentary these days, so no conflict of interest accusations arise. But he was involved a long time ago in a furore over the clash between being a TV commentator and a PR advisor. Mr Gallagher was the presenter of a lively political discussion programme on RTE, which some of the older generation would know to have been later with Finlay and Gallagher, along with former Labour Party spin doctors Fergus Finlay. The different political perspectives gave the show its spark, and the pair often clashed on air. But the two presenters were also lobbyists with public relation firms at the turn of the century. At the time, Mr Gallagher was the director of his previous firm, Kelly and Gallagher. Mr Gallagher landed in hot water when he did not point out that he was a lobbyist for a bank being investigated by the DIRT, D-I-R-T, in capital letters, inquiry. On the show, he was critical of tribunals and other financial inquiries, saying they should be consigned to history. The show was ultimately dropped by RTE at the turn of the century for budgetary reasons. It's good to see you all tuning in, guys. Mr Gallagher said Q4 has made a business decision long ago for staff not to act as commentators to avoid any perception of conflicts of interest. He got his lesson a very long time ago. Mr. Yates has now become embroiled in a conflict of interest controversy. He did debate coaching with Mr. Yavin in the presidential election, having also done media training for Fianna Fáil in the European elections and general election. But Mr. Yates had not declared his Fianna Fáil campaign work when he was also acting as a political commentator. He was dropped from the Path to Power. He was dropped from the Path to Power podcast by co-host Matt Cooper for not declaring his dual role. The media regulator, Commission Naman, is seeking details from RTE and Newstalk of his commentary and presenting work on air, and Newstalk is reviewing his role. Mr. Yates will be appearing before the Oireachtas Media Committee next week to discuss how to address conflicts of interest between media commenters in PR jobs. A number of other public relations industry figures have also been invited into the committee. The media regulator will also be given its views on how conflicts of interest should be addressed. Right, guys, this is all in, well, I will confess, I am anti-Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael government for a long number of years, knowing that their political advisors, that their political representatives have never been legally elected in their political careers. Micheál Martin, a typical example, has been there since 1996. Any information I receive that I can bring and do a live video to you people, whatever topic it may be, it will remain being done so because why Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael have been heavily involved in Ireland's hidden government, by oftentimes pawning themselves off to the public as the government of Ireland. Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael are only part of the government of Ireland because Ireland has always been governed by what's known as the hidden government of Ireland, which are top-ranked civil servants, top-ranked Gardaí, political advisors. Yes, in the last couple of years, it's questionable whether Ireland are independent or not, with exterior involvement coming from the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the EU, which is very questionable whether Ireland is even a legal identity due to the formation of Irish government. Since 1922, it's questionable whether Ireland are even a legal member of the European Union. The United Nations also is heavily involved in the government of Ireland at the moment, and has been for the last couple of years. And of course, the Crown, that in reality never really left Ireland. Okay. So anybody that wants to make a complaint or get something off their shoulders and discuss it can of course contact us at tm26riley@gmail.com. We will do 1 or 2 videos a week, but it'll be bringing you right up to date with what's going on. So it's not something I ever ask many viewers to do, but if you feel like hitting the like, share and subscribe button, you might do so. That's totally up to yourselves, guys. So right, enjoy your weekend.